Hi guys, Will29 here again, and today I'm going to be doing a deck profile on the Fluffal slash Frightfur deck that I showed you guys the other day. So I first found out about the deck through the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 anime, which is really good by the way, you guys should go watch it. And I really liked how they first showed the deck as this collection of cute and fluffy toy animals. And all of a sudden this guy the guy who uses it just went batshit crazy, and after he used fusion it becomes like this possessed demonic doll thingy. Anyway, I remember in the anime they called the archetype Fernimals and the fusion monsters were called something like Death Toys, and I thought, man, that's some pretty sick name. You guys could probably imagine my disappointment when I found out that Konami watered down their name in the TCG to Fluffals and frigging Frightfurs. From Death Toys to Frightfurs, I mean, come on. That's a pretty lame name, Konami. Anyway, so I did some playtesting online. First I tried sort of like a pure build of the Fluffal archetype. Then I even tried splashing in some generic support for Earth monsters and Fairy type monsters, or like Dark Fiend monsters. But then I sort of found out that the deck only really works with cards that mostly revolve around the archetype, as usual. But then I thought the build still wasn't that consistent, and I thought, hey, why don't I try a Shadow build, since, you know, you can always splash Shadows into anything. And plus Shadow Fusion kind of helps dumping the Edgem Scissors into the grave, so I can make a full use of the Typot. But then again, I found out that the Shadow effects doesn't trigger if you use Shadow cards as a cost for the Typot. So it still works if you draw the Shadow card with the Typot and then dump it into the grave, but it doesn't work if you use it as a cost. So I found out about this build when I was playing against a guy who was playing the same deck as me. He suggested that I don't play as many spells and traps because it does get dumped to the grave if you draw it using Typot, and he was right. So I tried splashing in some cards that work if you discard it to the grave, and yeah, I teched in some Burning Abyss Scum and the Fabled Tuna, I forgot what it was called. Anyway, I've sidetracked long enough, so you guys just probably want the deck profile. So without further ado, let's just jump right to it. So first you have the main searcher in this deck, the triple Fluffal Dogs. You always want this card in your hand, no matter what stage of the game you're in. So our puppy right here is the reason why this deck can extend so much in a turn and still be able to maintain a decent card advantage. What you want to search with Fluffal Dog's effect usually depends on your hand and what stage of the game you're in. We'll go through that later as we go through the cards. So next we also have triple Edgem Chains. Also super important in keeping your card advantage, but unlike Fluffal Dogs, we don't really have a way to search for this card right now. So you just have to hope that at some point in the game you'll be able to draw him from the deck at the speed that you're drawing cards with Typot. But yeah, otherwise you can't really search for this card until Konami decided to give the Fluffal deck a new support. Next we have the 3 Fluffal Bears. This card is a good card to open up with, since you can ditch him to get Typot, and Typot is quite important to get a lot of your combos going. If you open up with both Typots and this card in your hand, usually you want to ditch the Fluffal Bear, get the Typot on the field, and ditch the Typot in your hand to search for another Fluffal or Edgem Scissors. So next we have the 2 Edgem Scissors. although I'm running at 2 right now, I feel like I might bump it up to 3 and cut Scum to 2. Right now I'm only running 2 because I feel like once you have him in your hand or grave, he's going to be pretty much playable for the rest of the game, unless he gets banished, or you just banish him yourself using Frightfur Fusion. That's why but you rarely use Frightfur Fusion unless you're going for game anyways. So that's why I feel like you don't need too many, but then again, he's also like quite important to open up with, because he is your main fusion material in this deck, and because he lets you manipulate your draws with the typo. So with his effect, you can summon him back from the grave, send one Fluffal into your top deck, and then if you haven't used your Toyport effect already, you can ditch a card, and then you'll definitely get a Fluffal. And also, plus you need an engine in your grave anyway for Fluffal shape combos. So anyway, we have our 1-2 guide from the underworld. I'm kind of okay with tour guide being cut down to what I want since last format, since you don't really use your normal summon for tour guide anyways. You usually want to summon either Fluffal Elf or Fluffal Dog, so you can combo with sheep and whatever. But yeah, tour guide is if you open up with tour guide, it's a good card. Like basically, it's an easy access to rank 3. So yeah, 1-2 guide. And accompanying the tour guide is of course the triple scum of the Burning Abyss. I started running him during my final build, and he has been doing a great job in this deck because he makes Toyport basically 1,000 times better, because you'll still get his effect whether you discard him as a cost or whether you discard him as the draw for Toyport. The only problem is that his effect activates in the end phase, which is far too slow for a deck that wants to OTK ASAP. And again, I'm still thinking whether to cut him to 2 for a third Edgem Sabers, but for now I think it's a personal choice. Anyway, next up is the 1 Edgem Saw. He's not too important for this deck, other than being a necessary fusion material for Frightfur Leo, but usually you don't really want to waste your normal summon on this guy unless you open up with him and you don't really have any other plays. He is also good for manipulating your top decks for Toyport, but usually Edgem Sabers does the job. Anyway, next up is our main fusion searcher. He is the Fluffal Owl. So this guy basically searches your polymerization, or you can use his effect to pay 500 life points and fuse without polymerization if you already search all your polymerization from the deck. Usually I use his effect to search for polymerization anyway, since I don't really want to draw polymerization using Toyport, since that gets discarded anyway. So I only use his effect basically to when I've run out of polymerization, which is usually unlikely since I have Frightfur Factories to substitute for that. So yep. Next, we have the greatest addition to the Fluffal deck since its first release, the Fluffal Shapes, which I run at 3. So basically, the main combo with this is that you normal summon the Fluffal Dog, you search for the sheep, and then you special summon the sheep and bounce back the dog so that you can reuse the dog for next turn. Of course, if you don't have any Edgem in your hand or in your grave, you can't really use this combo. That's why I said it's important to have to open up with either Edgem Chain or Edgem Sabers. And next up is my little tech card is the Fabled Catsith. You usually use him as a discard cost for the Toyport, so you get his effect to destroy one face-up card on the field. Do keep in mind that the effect is mandatory, so if you don't have any other targets, you usually don't want to discard him. But you can discard him with the Toyport even if you don't have any other targets on the field to destroy Toyport itself, because since Toyport searches out for another Fluffal anyway, so in a sense you're not really losing out on the advantage. Well, if you basically don't have a Fluffal dog, then obviously it's a good play to just discard the cat Sith and destroy the Fluffal, the toy pot for Fluffal dog. And then lastly, 2 Fluffal rabbits. It's important for cycling things that for some reason get sent to the graveyard, but the only reason why I run him at 2 and not at 3 is because it clogs up in your hand, especially if you open up with him and you don't have any other Fluffals in the grave anyway. Since you can search him out with Fluffal dog once you have established like a good card advantage anyway. Moving on to spells, we have triple Galaxy Cyclone. Obviously in this deck, this card is better than MST, since if you draw it using Toy Pot, you can still use its effect to destroy one face-up spell or trap. But yeah, obviously Galaxy Cyclone in real life is still costing like $50 each, but otherwise in Dev Pro it's a totally perfect card to use. Anyway, next is the triple Frightfur fusion. This card is almost never dead in your hand, even if you open up with it. Since basically it's very easy to get a Fluffal into your grave. You can basically ditch the Fluffal bear into the grave just to search for the toy pot, and usually want your Edgem Scissors in the grave anyway. And there's plenty of other times where you just have a Fluffal and Edgem in your grave very quickly. And it's basically a free fusion, like the Miracle Fusion for heroes. And you can search it out with Edgem Chain. And even if you open up with it and you don't have any other place, you can still ditch it with Toy Pot, and once you get your Frightfur Factory, you can use it, and once Frightfur Factory gets destroyed, you can simply get it back from the Banish Zone. So next is the 1 Frightfur Factory. I don't feel like you need to run any more than 1, since you can search this out with Edgem Chain anyway. And you do run like 6 fusion spell cards, so you can definitely... This card is almost always never dead in your hand. Keep in mind that an important play with the Galaxy Cyclone is also using your own Galaxy Cyclone in your grave to destroy this card, so just so you can get a Frightfur Fusion to your hand already if you don't already have it, so you can OTK your opponent. And Toy Pot, I've already mentioned this 100 times in this deck, just because of how important this card is in your deck and how searchable it is, especially since you run a lot of discard targets. And you can also, if you don't have a good hand and you have a Galaxy Cyclone in your graveyard, you might as well destroy your own Toy Pot, just so you can search out a Fluffal and get your plays going. So moving on to the extra deck, we have 1 Frightfur Chimera. Yeah, except it looks so much more daunting and scarier in anime, but now it just looks like some kind of circus freak show on the actual card. But anyway, it requires 3 Frightfur Fusion monsters to summon, so most of the time you will get him out with Frightfur Fusion. But even then, you rarely ever need to use this guy, just because by the time you played 3 Frightfur cards, the game would probably be over already. But otherwise, he's a great Go-Yo Guardian 2.0. And like Frightfur Sheep, he makes it so that you can't activate card effects in response to its attack. But anyway, moving on, we have 2 Frightfur Leos. Despite running 1 Edgem Saw, I run 2 Frightfur Leos just because you can get him out twice with Polymerization and then using Frightfur Fusion. But I only ever needed to do that in 1 game, so I might cut him down to 1 again. So next up is the 1 Frightfur Bear. Not a great card by itself, or at least it's lackluster compared to the other Frightfurs, but I usually play him anyway when I already have Tiger out on my field and I've already exhausted all my wolves. But speaking of wolves, we have the 1 Frightful Wolf. I only run 1 since if Frightful Wolf ever gets out, it's usually game over anyway. But I might just run 2 in case something happens to the first one, and it is important to be able to game your opponent with Frightful Wolf. And then we have its friend, the Frightfur Tiger, which is basically your JD for Light Swans in Fluffals. If it doesn't destroy something, you can always use its other effect to boost itself and its other Frightfur friends by 300 attack for each Frightfur and Fluffals on your side of the field. So when you can't destroy something by card effects, such as that card, the level 9 Synchro, Leo something God Beast, or the Clifford Tower, just basically spam your field until all your Frightfurs have like over 3k attack. And the last but not least of our freaky Frightfur friends, we have the Frightfur Wolf, which basically has the effect of reviving itself once per turn as if it's destroyed, as long as it hits the grave, and your opponent can't activate any card effects in response to its attack. So it's basically one card that kills Bujins or Yangzings or anything that likes to float. And going into the synchros, we have Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. I figured that since I run Catsith and it's a tuner, I might as well run a synchro monster. But since you have to normal summon the Catsith, I would probably do it after I fusion summon something. And if I ever wanted to extend my plays after I summon the Tiger, I'd probably want to get rid of something annoying that I can't or don't want to destroy by a card effect. So I chose the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon for its bounce effect. And then going for the XYZ, even though the anime user hates XYZ so much, we have the Ghost Trick Alucard, the Levier, and the Dante, which is mainly used for the tour guide. Basically, if you open up with tour guide and you have no other plays, usually go for Dante and hope to mill toy pots, which can let you search out for your plays. And then for the last XYZ, the only rank 2 is the Sky Cavalry Centauria. I put this card in as another out to something that I don't or can't destroy by card effects. And you can easily make this card since you can spam Fluffal Sheep easily. And yeah, that's it for the actual deck. So now for my side deck, with the exception being Fluffal Cats. I am still considering using this card for the deck, except I feel like Fluffal Owl does the job more than enough. And even if you run out of poly and you run out of Fluffal Owls, usually you can still poly with Frightfur Factory, and which is reusable every turn. So I feel like I never really needed Fluffal Cats, but I don't know. But anyway, next is the One Raigeki. Even though I can spam Frightfur Tiger most of the time, the One Raigeki really helps against decks that stuns very very hard, such as the rank 4 Cyber Infinity spam deck, or something like Masked Hero Dark Law, since this deck needs things to hit the graveyard. So One Raigeki would probably be my out to that. And then we have 3 Skill Prisoners and 3 Breakthrough Skills. The Breakthrough Skills and the Skill Prisoner are easily exchangeable with the Fabled Catsith, since it's a card that needs to be ditched anyway. Again, as I said, this deck really loses against something that stuns really hard, like the Cyber Dragon Infinity deck. So, like the Breakthrough Skills would probably be my out to that. And then we also have the Skill Prisoners to face against something that likes to OTK hard as well. By using targeting effects. Yeah, it just basically helps you survive, unlike Catsith. Catsith just sort of helps you OTK, while this kind of helps you survive because it prevents targeting effects. So that's all for the deck profile, and as always, enjoy your duels. See you next time.